Drugs are here. Drugs have been a part of every culture throughout the world since the beginning of history. Some form of getting out of your mind, be it through alcohol or eating mushrooms or eating cactuses or whatever. I think the drugs open you to more experiences in reality that you might otherwise not have seen. And the drug experience is a real experience. It is another aspect of reality. It might be mind-altering. Reality is still the same physically. It's just your perception of it that's being altered, and so it's widening your experience of reality, if you like, rather than a substitute for reality.
It's like Christmas all over again when I think about it. It's like back from when you were a kid, when you were really exciting things. That's just what it's like. Out, when you're out, no, you don't feel bad or anything, you just feel so great. You think, as you say, you can't ask for any more.
In this country at the moment, designer drug is becoming like an alternative to alcohol, and a lot of people look at alcohol and don't like what alcohol breeds, and I don't have to explain what alcohol breeds, you all know yourselves. Ecstasy has become more of a way of life for people.
If I was religious, I'd say it was like a religious experience. To feel that good inside, to wrap up the best sex, the best present your mum ever bought you as a kid, to wrap it all up into one feeling and put it in a nightclub situation with 2,000 other people and you all feel the same, then it's ecstasy. It's got the right name. It's pure ecstasy.
It's extremely difficult to be remotely accurate about the numbers of young people who are using ecstasy in this country. If you consult any number of researchers, you'll get figures at wide variance, but 500,000 is a favourite figure at the moment. It could be less, it could be much, much more, but we are talking about hundreds of thousands of young people using this drug regularly.
Ecstasy first made the news in 1988 when convoys of cars full of young people met at disused warehouses to party all night. The police tried to stamp out these unlicensed events, but only succeeded in moving the scene, along with its favourite drug, into nightclubs all over Britain. Now, no longer underground, the rave cult is growing fast. Last year, despite several well-publicised deaths and a government media campaign warning of its dangers, even more young people took ecstasy at club raves. Although millions of doses are now taken every year, experts still know little about the drug, and even less about the young people who take it.
The adult community, if I can use that expression, isn't coping very well. This drug is a category A drug, which means that young people who begin to experiment can very easily find themselves charged with serious criminal offences, sometimes without even knowing it was illegal. It's a controlled drug. It's a Schedule I drug, which means that no serious research is going on into what its effects on human beings are. We have a situation where we have a highly illegal, controlled substance being used in an entirely indiscriminate way, extraordinarily dangerous, a massive experiment in the unknown. When it comes to young people's drug use, all the interpretations start from the point of view that it must be irrational, unnatural, pathological. They start from the basic and very deeply held assumption that something is intrinsically wrong with it. But if you ask a young person why they take ecstasy, they'll be a little bit perplexed because for them, quite obviously and quite clearly, they take it for the pleasure it gives them. The physical pleasure, the mental pleasure, the emotional pleasure. Lifeline starts from the position of what do you say after you've said just say no? What do you say to those thousands of youngsters who've said yes? Are you simply to dismiss them? Are you to label them as being unhealthy or pathological? Are you going to criminalize them? Are you going essentially to sideline them? Or are you going to listen to them, to listen to what they say, to see whether there is any value in the experience?
I'll go inside the club of a night, I'll be buzzing around, I'll have a little dance here and there, but the tablet ain't worked, as in ain't started yet. I'll just be dancing around feeling happy, which gives, as you say, the tablet the little kick, because you're already feeling happy, and you're in the right frame of mind for going out. You get your problem inside the drinking clubs. You would see quite a few fights inside the nightclub where someone spilt a drink over someone, and the other person don't like it, so they turn around and smack them. You're inside and someone doesn't like the look of you, so they kick off on you. But inside these clubs, you go out and you spill a drink over someone, and they'll just laugh it off. They say, sorry lad, we know you didn't mean any harm.
It's a world where you haven't actually got any worries. The only thing that matters is what's going on at the moment, and the thing that is going on at the moment is just intense happiness and having a good time. And everybody around you is sharing the same experience. In our world, in this world, then it's everybody together, and it's very much a collective social thing.
You see people really going for it, dancing around, loving the night. So you think, they're loving it there, that's great over there. And you try to egg people on, get a better atmosphere, shout and scream, and it seems to lift you.
People feel very warm and loving towards other people. It's actually known as the love drug. It removes emotional barriers, increases awareness and heightened sensitivity, and increases confidence as well. It has all sorts of psychoactive effects.
You're aware that there's other people all over the country doing exactly the same as you, having the same experience as you, and although you're not there, you know that it is a collective thing that's going on. It's good to be part of something that feels that good.
Ecstasy does what other favoured dance drugs, like amphetamine and like LSD, don't do. It provides for the people who take it a tremendous feeling of togetherness. It's a drug which people can go out and cease to be private individuals, and they can enjoy collectively a sense of being which is completely unlike anything they've experienced before.
You run up and hug people just because that's what you want to do. You're smiling at people, you're looking in people's eyes and their eyes are smiling back at you, and you're connecting on a level that you don't connect on with people who don't do ease.
Because you're in the rave scene and, like, you know, someone will start a funky little move over in the corner to get things going on the dance floor. So somebody else over that side will start answering it, and then it's like people talking with their bodies from one side of the room to the next. And an hour later, everyone's in there and everyone's strutting their stuff, and it's all happening. And everywhere you look, there's something different going on. You know, people's movements, everything's different. The lights will change, and then you'll be in the middle of a groove with a particular sound, and then they'll change it to a completely different beat, but you can still follow it, you know, and it's like, wow, what's going to happen next?
feeling great, feeling wonderful. Best I felt, really, tell the truth, for a long while. It's like, inside the club, and as I say, I've had me tablets or whatever they're called. But I'm in there, and the night's kicking off, just slowly starting, music lifting up and that. As soon as you're coming up, like, I feel like a cushion of air's just come between my feet, lifting me off the dance floor. All waves are like rushes all over my body. It's great.
It indirectly causes the release of serotonin in various areas of the brain. If you take ecstasy, you will experience an inhibition of appetite and of aggression, which is obviously why people who take it do feel very calm and loving.
Dancing is almost like an expression of your emotion. It's a way of showing everybody how good you're feeling. It's like you're experiencing the music rather than just hearing it. It's almost as if it's filling your body, because music is almost inside you, then it's coming out through your dance. It's like flying.
It's the music going on throughout your whole body. And for somebody who enjoys dancing anyway and expressing themselves in that way, what could be better? And you're there, and it's all happening for you. And if the DJ changes the sound just a little bit, you change just a little bit, you know, and he's catching you out and you're following him. And that's the dance ethic of it all. You walk into the club, 10:30, 11 o'clock, and it's sort of mellow. The beat's there, the buzz is there, and then you find your spec. I mean, I'm usually on a plinth or something, you know, because I like to get up and see whatever else is going on as well. And then the DJ takes you, and he'll have you right in the palm of his hand with the sounds that he's playing, and he'll mix them. And for me, I mean, I've always liked dancing. Years ago, I used to be, oh, you can't dance with Jo, she's dead weird, she's all over the place. You know, one of them, and it'd be embarrassing for people to dance with me, which is fair enough, I don't care. But now, it's like, you know, he'll take you on a rhythm, so your feet are going that way, and then he brings something else in, so your hips are going that way, and then the arms come in, and for some reason, it just all comes together.
There have been a number of fatalities from ingestion of very low doses of ecstasy, and it is therefore a potentially dangerous drug. However, if you're still determined to take it, it's important to make sure that you drink a lot of soft drinks and replace fluids, don't get too hot, and don't dance for too long. However, that still doesn't eliminate the risk of developing a very severe reaction.
But as the night progresses, you'll find the beat of the music will become more heavier, more, say, faster. And you'll find yourself more involved, drawn into the music. And I find as the beats are heavier and faster, you find yourself blocking yourself out from people around you if you want to. And you go into a dance-like thing where you're just involved in your dancing, you feel so comfortable when you're dancing, like a floatingness.
Strobe levels are often switched to a trance-like level, and you've got all dry ice coming on, and there's moments where you actually can't see anybody else in the club because all you can see is dry ice and strobe flashing, and that is very trance-like because you are the only person you can see, and what's going on with you is the only thing that there is, and you're just lost totally within yourself.
Dance is when it's as if them people around you have suddenly disappeared, but they're still there, you know they're there, you can see them. But you're more involved in yourself and you're dancing. You feel very floaty, and as I say, your mind's travelling. As I say, with this feeling of ecstasy, it's just travelling. No thoughts going through, all you can hear is the music, and you feel like you're part of the music as you're dancing and dancing.
You talk about wonderment and serenity and devotion, and they're all quite religious-like word, you know, and to feel, you know, I'm devoted to my Saturday nights to go out and let go. And plus some of the images that are conjured up that you see in clubs, you know, people reach into the skies as such, reach into the light as they're doing, looking up to the light, the lasers that are going on. But all those hands suddenly going up, all the biblical epics you used to see years ago, the robe, you know, Samson and Delilah, everyone's like this, you know, oh, the Messiah has come to us. I'm not saying that that's what they're thinking, but that's the sort of imagery that's going round in a rave scene. You know, big smiles on faces, you know. Whereas in Monday to Friday, you walk round Liverpool city centre and everyone's going their own little way, you know, and then suddenly on a Saturday night, all these same faces like, "All right, how are you?" You know, and throwing their arms around you, and all those kind of images. That's where you know, I'm not religious, but it's quite, you know, divine.
It is a very freeing thing. Your emotions are freed from any ties of thought or restrictions. Barriers are broken down. And so it is like a kind of madness, but your brain's not actually scrambled, you're still aware, your brain's perfectly clear. Nothing's distorted, you can still see clearly, you can still hear clearly, you can still think rationally. And so it's not like a total alter ego where you're a gibbering wreck sort of madness. It is an ecstatic madness. I mean, that's why it's called ecstasy, because it is an ecstatic experience, and the definition of ecstasy is beside yourself, and it is like being beside yourself. It's like a new part of you that's just coming out in a pure way. It's just pure emotion coming out. And if emotion's madness, then yes, it is madness. It can be described as a heavenly experience because it isn't on the level of your ordinary experience. It is a higher experience, but it's something that you can get without dying. You don't have to wait for death to experience ecstasy or the feeling ecstasy. So you can get it while you're alive, and you may as well, because you're not. There's no guarantee you're going to get it when you're dead, is there?
After the clubs close, most ravers return to private parties or chill-outs where they can continue to dance or just unwind as the effects of the drug wear off.
The chill-out brings everybody a lot closer. You're close out in the evening and hugging on the dance floor, but it's more of an emotional closer, whereas when you're sitting and chatting, you feel the links between the people in your group. A lot of the time we might come back and carry on dancing because we know we're going to be awake for the next 5 or 6 hours. It's like another evening starting again once we've got home. But it is an important part of the evening, and it is part of the thing for us. Your body actually feels quite exhausted. Obviously you've been dancing for 4 or 5 hours of the night, and then you've come home and been awake for another 6 hours sitting and chatting. So you do actually feel quite exhausted, and your mind feels quite tired. Sort of you're in a daze, but you can still function, you can still go out and do things, and it's always nice to go down to somewhere like the Hologram Shop, go and do something nice. If it's a nice day, go out, because you just feel just calm and peaceful and quite content and happy with what's going on. You're not back to your normal state of mind where you can sit and write an essay or something like that, but it's quite nice and gentle. Visual appreciation seems to be heightened, and because of all the lights and strobes and lasers in the club, the hologram type of thing is along the same sort of lines. They're not real or tangible, but they are at the same time. They're the in-betweeny sort of stage, and I don't know, you can't quite get your head around them. You can't quite believe in them, but they are there. The eyes follow you around as well. Look at the size of the pupils as well. Real huge glazed eyes. Relates to these because that's still there, that's still happening. You feel like it's not real or it couldn't possibly be real because it is so good. But it is there, and you are experiencing it. Friends that we've known before E and after E, there is a personality change, but for the better. You're more aware of how your actions are affecting other people because you're aware of your own emotions. You're aware that you can tell people the truth. There's a level of understanding, I think, that E people have got. They know what experience each other has had, and you've got a certain level of communication between you before you've started talking to them. And so it's a sort of deeper level and more personal, and you admit things to yourself about yourself as well. You find out things about yourself that you maybe wouldn't have found out.
Oh, the Space Invaders.
Oh, that's... now it starts going potty. Must be quite hypnotising as well. Oh.
Well, the beauty of the rave is that although one's transported to a separate level, a new realm, one doesn't have to answer questions. All the questions are answered in the immediacy and joy of the celebration that is the rave culture. It's not an experience which one has to question. What one has to question, and question very deeply, is why it is one has to come back from it. And one of the problems with wonderful experiences is that they don't go on and on and on. They end. They stop. And from that point of view, ecstasy and the wonderment it produces is intrinsically problematic.
The Poisons Unit actually have quite a few reports of people who take it and feel very agitated and experience anxiety and panic attacks and actually, on the whole, experience dysphoric reactions to it. So it doesn't always cause these wonderful effects.
When young people are suffering from the psychological aftermath of regular ecstasy use, they involve themselves in introspection and self-analysis, which is frequently very painful, and for which they're very ill-equipped. One young person phoned me up and said, "I'm beginning to think about the size of the universe and religion, and I don't like it."
Well, if ecstasy is taken frequently, the good effects appear to diminish and the bad effects seem to increase. People often take more tablets to try and achieve the same effect, but it usually results in an increase in the negative side effects.
I went down to a nightclub down in London and had a very scary night that night. Don't know whether it was paranoia myself, but a lot of it was caused by what was really going on inside. I was feeling great beforehand. Since then, I've noticed I've been paranoid all the time. I can settle down with about, say, 2 or 3 people in a room and be comfortable with them, but once there's more in the room, I'm just like paranoid, think people are out for me, out to get me.
Because at the time you could probably put that bad experience down as a kind of one-off.
Yeah.
You were in London, it went wrong. Is that what you did?
Yes.
And you carried on?
But carried on doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I carried on because I put it behind me.
Yeah.
Both sides put it behind me. But I noticed after that, I was paranoid of people all the time.
Yeah.
Getting really scared. And
Yeah.
soon paranoia started developing.
Yeah.
Real bad.
And did you talk to your friends about that?
Talk to my friends, but some friends didn't know. They hadn't been through it themselves, so they didn't really understand.
So that sort of makes it worse, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When you're trying to get across.
Trying to speak to people and they don't understand. They're thinking, no, it's just your... No, they're telling you it's just your head.
When you were using lots of ecstasy regularly, did you find you lost weight?
I found I lost weight when I was using lots of ecstasy, but really I didn't notice my weight loss for a while. I was out dancing, didn't really weigh myself and that. But it comes to a point where I was inside a nightclub one night and it just didn't work anymore. This was the first time. Suddenly found myself breaking down, really feeling exhausted. And
when you're recovering from a rave, you've probably got a lot of time on your hands. plenty of time to sit down and think about why it can't be like that all the time. You've come back from an experience which you really value to one which increasingly seems dull and boring and pointless. And that's the stage at which you begin to feel lonely and isolated and paranoid. And that's the stage where it's really very helpful if you can find something that can keep your mind and body occupied, so that you aren't simply sitting it out till the next rave.
I've always been a very gregarious kind of person anyway, but in myself I was quite insular. No one ever got that close to me, really. There was very few people I could trust where I could tell absolutely everything to. And then something happens, like the rave scene happened, and suddenly I was looking at myself and I was sitting to someone who was a friend or not a very close associate, and I was suddenly telling them all these things and sort of bearing my soul, sort of, you know, oh, when I was 15 I did this, and it's sort of, then I went away and I thought, oh my God, you know, I've let somebody in, but it wasn't so bad, you know, it wasn't bad at all. If anything, it was great, you know, because the next thing they're saying, you know, oh, well, you did that, you want to hear this, you know, and you suddenly find that, yeah, you've done these things in the past and you've been embarrassed by things, but at the end of the day, it's all part of growing up. Once you come away from the ecstasy angle of it, you realise that it comes from within yourself. I mean, people are governed in two ways, either by outside influences or inside influences. And if you can feel that good about something and then realise that it's come from you, you start thinking about, well, how, you know, what was it about my character that's brought this out? So you start to think, you know, what is it in yourself that makes you feel, it gives you that better aspect on life, you know? That's how I deal with it. I don't know whether anybody else feels the same, but it's definitely changed me for the better in that respect. The game ain't over till the fat lady sings.
When you've experienced pure emotion, if you like, you can appreciate what poets like Shelley or whatever are talking about, because they've got a deeper awareness anyway of emotions such as that, and the way that they're talking about things is put in a beautiful way. And when you're reading that kind of thing, I find it a lot more affecting now and a lot more personal maybe than I had before, because I've had deeper emotional experiences as well now through ease. So those who are granted a foretaste of this, and very few have the good fortune, experience something which is very like madness. One moment they are excited, the next depressed. They weep and laugh and sigh by turns. In fact, they are truly beside themselves. Then, when they come to, they say they don't know where they have been, in the body or outside it, awake or asleep. They cannot remember what they have heard or seen or said or done, except in a mist, like a dream. All they know is that they were happiest when they were out of their senses in this way, and they lament their return to reason. For all they want is to be mad forever with this kind of madness, and this is only the merest taste of the happiness to come.
This is BBC One in the north. Good afternoon, the headlines.
I tend to think too much, worry, because I am a worrier myself. I think too much, think of, say, what problems I've got and what worries I've got, and I just build them up and blow them all out of proportion, nearly. Make them bigger than what they are, which makes me more paranoid.
Cost £46 million.
I take up most of my mornings through the week by going to job club, which is every Tuesday to Friday, 9:30 till 12:30. Job club's very important because of a day I have nothing to do myself, so it keeps my mind occupied for just a few hours a week, which is better than nothing. I'm trying to find work in scaffolding at the moment. Well, it does a lot with your mind really as well. No, you're kept busy all day, doing a lot of lifting, but you gotta use your head on it. Now, with me not working and doing what I'm doing, I've got quite a lot of lack of confidence, but I'm trying to get through them by go job club of a day, keeps me occupied, play football. If I get a job, I find all my confidence comes back. And slowly but surely I'll start to lose my paranoia.
Ecstasy has affected a few young people in a very different way, causing violent and in some cases fatal physical reactions to the drug.
There have been at least 12 deaths reported since 1988. Now, 10 of those have been confirmed as being due to ecstasy ingestion, and most of them were actually very low doses, between 1 and 5 tablets. We only had 6 reported to us at the poisons unit. All were confirmed. Now, there have also been at least 6 very serious near-fatal reactions.
One of these cases, Julian, took a single tablet of ecstasy in June 1991.
We were in bed. I heard the phone, so Bill was fast asleep. So I ran down, and then it's the hospital, and they said, we've got your son here. Can you come down as soon as possible? And we went through, and we heard this terrific, horrible... It was a wail, and it was like an animal or a baby, a mixture of both. Terrific noise. And when we went to look at him, he was stripped, and there was water pouring all over him. It was pouring out of him. And his feet were coming back one way, and his head was going back to me. His spine was bent. And this moan, every time he moaned, his head went back, and his eyes and his mouth opened wide, and this horrible noise came out.
Complications basically occur from the very high temperature and include breakdown in muscle tissue, leading to kidney failure and liver failure, and also disturbances in clotting of the blood, which often results in death.
And they said, wherever he's taken, they don't know what was in it, and they were getting in touch with the poison people, whoever they were. And they just expected the worst. They said, from what we know of this, so far nobody's recovered.
The essence of Julie at that time had left him. I was prepared for Julie to die.
Once the blood starts to clot abnormally, it's very touch and go, really. I mean, blood transfusions are given, but it's an extremely serious reaction.
They still couldn't get the blood to clot, so there's still no definite answer. He could have come back brain-wise, but his body wasn't functioning.
When he did come round 4 or 5 days later, he was hallucinating, severely hallucinating. He didn't know what happened.
I know, yeah. I could see, like, you know, the nurses, she was all dressed up as different people. I thought I could fly, you know, and shut my eyes. But when I first woke up, I thought I was in bed. I just heard someone laughing and I woke up. So, where am I?
He looked ill, really ill. The amount of weight he'd lost from the last time he'd seen him. He bruised, dead easy, really, like easy and all that. Dead tired, always tired. Couldn't keep a conversation going at all.
You'd get him up and try and walk him to the end of the corridor. That was at the time when we were going home. Julie would walk up to the end of the corridor with us. Get to the end of the corridor, it'd be like a 90-year-old. Just, you wouldn't believe he was 23.
Well, in Julian's case, he was very seriously ill for 33 days. He was in hospital for a long time. And obviously, it will take him months and months to recover fully from his acute episode. There may even be complications with kidney function later on in life.
In spite of nearly losing his life, now that he's recovered, Julian has started going to raves again.
Oh, yeah, it's the best thing, like, it's...
You like the scene, you just won't touch it.
The scene's the best scene that's been around, because lads are dancing now, aren't they? Girls are dancing, everyone's happy with you. It's no good just going out, going to the pub and going home drunk. Like, I don't like alcohol that much anyway. Nobody does, do they? No.
We know that long-term chronic use of alcohol and cigarettes can lead to death, but we don't know. There's just not enough information on the long-term effects of ecstasy in humans. Evidence from animal experiments suggest that it may possibly cause brain damage in humans.
I think the younger you are, the less able your body and your mind is to cope with such an intense experience. And I think that maybe there are going to be more problems in the future because of the extent that it is spreading.
Virus is spreading.
Our reaction, by and large, is to lean very heavily on traditional messages. We say, just say no, when hundreds of thousands of young people have already said yes. We say, this drug is a killer. There have been a tiny number of tragic deaths associated with this drug. But by and large, it's much less dangerous than some of the legal drugs around. We're coping with it very badly. There's absolutely no chance of us controlling it. Young people, whether we like it or not, have taken a decision. And we really have to locate ourselves in respect of that decision.
There's not enough advice at the moment. What the government should do is, if they can't legalise it, they know the drug's going to stay there all the time. It's going to be there. What they can do is advise people, if they are going to be taking this drug, not to hammer it.
One of the things that young people have to realise is that responsibility for using drugs, which might have inbuilt dangers, which might cause imbalances in their brain chemistry, which might lead to overheating, they have to take the responsibility for finding out themselves. And agencies like ours have a clear responsibility to provide as widely as possible and as accessibly as possible the kinds of information which young people can take and read if and when they're going to experiment with these drugs. Way. Extraordinarily dangerous. A massive experiment in the unknown. When it comes to young people's drug use, all the interpretations start from the point of view that it must be irrational, unnatural, pathological. They start from the basic and very deeply held assumption that something is intrinsically wrong with it. But if you ask a young person why they take ecstasy, they'll be a little bit perplexed because for them, quite obviously and quite clearly, they take it for the pleasure it gives them. The physical pleasure, the mental pleasure, the emotional pleasure. Lifeline starts from the position of what do you say after you've said just say no? What do you say to those thousands of youngsters who've said yes? Are you simply to dismiss them? Are you to label them as being unhealthy or pathological? Are you going to criminalize them? Are you going essentially to sideline them? Or are you going to listen to them, to listen to what they say, to see whether there is any value in the experience?
Drugs are here. Drugs have been a part of every culture throughout the world since the beginning of history. Some form of getting out of your mind, be it through alcohol or eating mushrooms or eating cactuses or whatever. I think the drugs open you to more experiences in reality that you might otherwise not have seen. And the drug experience is a real experience. It is another aspect of reality. It might be mind-altering. Reality is still the same physically. It's just your perception of it that's being altered, and so it's widening your experience of reality, if you like, rather than a substitute for reality.
It's like Christmas all over again when I think about it. It's like back from when you were...
People using this drug regularly.
Ecstasy first made the news in 1988 when convoys of cars full of young people met at disused warehouses to party all night. The police tried to stamp out these unlicensed events, but only succeeded in moving the scene, along with its favourite drug, into nightclubs all over Britain. Now, no longer underground, the rave cult is growing fast. Last year, despite several well-publicised deaths and a government media campaign warning of its dangers, even more young people took ecstasy at club raves. Although millions of doses are now taken every year, experts still know little about the drug, and even less about the young people who take it.
The adult community, if I can use that expression, isn't coping very well. This drug is a category A drug, which means that young people who begin to experiment can very easily find themselves charged with serious criminal offences, sometimes without even knowing it was illegal. It's a controlled drug. It's a Schedule I drug, which means that no serious research is going on into what its effects on human beings are. We have a situation where we have a highly illegal, controlled substance being used in an entirely indiscriminate...
Kid, when you're really exciting things, that's just what it's like. Out, when you're out, no, you don't feel bad or anything, you just feel so great. You think, as I say, you can't ask for any more.
In this country at the moment, designer drug is becoming like an alternative to alcohol, and a lot of people look at alcohol and don't like what alcohol breeds, and I don't have to explain what alcohol breeds, you all know yourselves. Ecstasy has become more of a way of life for people.
If I was religious, I'd say it was like a religious experience. To feel that good inside, to wrap up the best sex, the best present your mum ever bought you as a kid, to wrap it all up into one feeling and put it in a nightclub situation with 2,000 other people and you all feel the same, then it's ecstasy. It's got the right name. It's pure ecstasy.
It's extremely difficult to be remotely accurate about the numbers of young people who are using ecstasy in this country. If you consult any number of researchers, you'll get figures at wide variance, but 500,000 is a favourite figure at the moment. It could be less, it could be much, much more. But we are talking about hundreds of thousands of young